in my kitchen this week, and I have got 3 vegan recipes I'm sharing with you. It's been a minute since I've done a fully plant-based vegan recipe style video. For more of my recipes, to get more ideas, inspiration in the kitchen, you can head over to my website at www.tishwonders.co.uk. There are 5 ebooks available over there, so lots more to choose from. I actually never asked this question, but I would love to hear from you in the comments. Let me know what eating style you associate yourself with. That could be fully vegan, fully plant-based. Maybe you have more of an approach like me. I consider myself to be super non-restrictive, adaptable, forever changing with the seasons of the environment that I'm in or the seasons of my life. Maybe you have more of a paleo approach. Maybe keto feels good to you. Like, what feels good to you in this moment in time? Let's jump straight into these vegan recipes. Let's do it. Let's go. When I think of the top vegan sources of protein, a few things come to mind, a few of which we actually are going to include in this recipe. So we're gonna whip up these tempeh tacos. I completely understand that tempeh is not for everyone. It could take a little getting used to. It's a fermented food. I think if you season it up right, you spice it up well, you add a little something to it, it is delicious. If you'd prefer to leave tempeh to the side for this recipe and you wanna swap and use tofu instead, of course, do your thing. So we'll start by chopping up all of our ingredients for our tempeh. So I'm using some white onions, just finely dicing them. Moving on to the red peppers, which I'm also finely slicing. So I grabbed my large skillet, my large pan, and I heated it on a medium heat, continuing to chop up some garlic. So once my pan had heated, I swirled in a little bit of olive oil, placing in the onions and the garlic. These onions were killing me today. I have these random moments where white onions just, oh my God, it's just like non-stop tears. I seasoned with some salt and just continued stirring everything. Then threw in the red peppers, reduced the heat a little bit actually, because I think I had the pan a little bit too high, and just continued stirring everything, mixing everything, cooking those red peppers down. So I used this chipotle paste that I got from the supermarket. I threw some of that in, and I also threw some of this ancho chili powder in as well. I also threw in some cumin seeds. I would have preferred some cumin powder, but I only had the seeds. So yeah, threw some of those in and just continued mixing, stirring everything. Everything was smelling so good at this point already. So after about 10 to 15 minutes, it was time to add in the tempeh. You could grate your tempeh in if you want. You could finely chop it. Also, I decided just to crumble mine into the pan, which actually wasn't as easy as crumbling tofu, but it still happened. I still made it work. So yeah, I just placed in that tempeh. Like I mentioned earlier, tempeh needs a little bit of, TLC. It needs a little something added to it. I also added some extra smoked tomato paste in just for a little extra edge. And yeah, just continue to stir everything well, allowing that tempeh just to deepen in flavor, and almost allow it to go a little bit crispy if that's possible in the pan that you're using. So yeah, just be patient with this tempeh. It will be delicious. I decided to chop up some fresh coriander and throw some of that in, because coriander is just a necessary herb for a recipe like this. How simple was that? Just a few easy steps to have this super delicious taco filling, this super delicious tempeh taco filling, should I say. So set that tempeh filling aside and move on to preparing this cheesy cashew sauce, which is just a dream. Honestly, it's incredible. Into my mini blender, I placed in some soaked cashews along with some onion powder and some garlic powder. I placed in a little touch of turmeric, mostly just for the color, just to enhance that cheesy color. Seasoned with a little bit of salt, placed in some pepper, and then of course I had to place in some nutritional yeast. It wouldn't be complete without some nutritional yeast. A little squeeze of lime juice, a touch of water so everything blends well and smooth, and that was it. So I whizzed this cashew cheesy sauce up until it reached my desired consistency. This cashew cheesy sauce is so good that I ended up, I think, having more of the cheesy sauce within the tacos than the actual filling itself. You'll just want to dip the tacos in it. It's incredible. Oh my God, it's perfect. First time, it's perfect. I'm gonna put a little bit of black pepper in there, and for me that is perfect consistency, perfect amount of cheesiness. I love it. had all of the ingredients to make a quick little bowl of pico de gallo, so I thought, why not? So I began by chopping up my cherry tomatoes. Obviously you can use any variety of tomatoes that you have. Followed on by dicing up some red onion. Luckily I had a jalapeno on hand, so I chopped some of that up too. And I finally chopped up some fresh coriander. So I combined everything, placing in some salt and a good squeeze of lime juice. Heat up in a pan whatever tortillas you're using, place on top that tempeh filling. I chose to add some purple cabbage, a little bit of avocado, threw over that cashew cheese sauce. Give me more of that sauce, a little bit of that pico de gallo, and it was game on. Moving on to our other recipe, we're gonna make this roasted aubergine butter bean curry. Of course, you can swap out the butter beans. You can use chickpeas instead. You could use butter beans and lentils, or chickpeas and lentils. You could even throw some tofu in there if you want to. Roasted aubergine for me is just one of the best things ever anyways. Roasting it and adding it to the curry just adds so much depth of flavor. Of course, we're going to be using lots of wonderful spices. We're going to throw some coconut milk in for that creaminess. This is a long-standing favorite of mine, something I can never ever get tired of. Let's do it. So we'll start off by preparing our aubergine. So we're going to put this to roast. So I just sliced my aubergine and I chopped it into cubes. I grabbed a lined baking sheet, just placing the aubergine on, gave it some good salt, a little bit of cumin powder and a good swirl of olive oil, just making sure everything was covered well. Gave it a little shake around in the baking tray and placed it into a preheated oven of about 190 degrees Celsius, leaving it in there for around 20 to 25 minutes. You'll know once the aubergine is cooked. I followed on by chopping up the remaining curry ingredients, including finely dicing some white onion and finely chopping up some chili. It looks like I'm using a lot of chili. This chili just didn't have the kind of heat that I wanted, so I had to use quite a bit. Continued on by dicing up a red pepper and also chopped up some garlic as well. So I began by dry toasting all of my spice seeds that I wanted to add into the curry. So this included some fennel seeds, some cumin seeds, and some cardamom seeds too. So I gently toasted the spice seeds for about a minute or so. You definitely don't want to burn them. So super quick, just flash toast them. I placed them into a pestle and mortar, just crushing them, and then just set them aside until I was ready to add them into the curry. If you don't have spice seeds or you don't want to use spice seeds, of course you can just use ground spices. That's absolutely fine. You can skip this step. Into the same pan, I swirled in a little bit of olive oil, and then I placed in those chopped onions, that garlic, and that chili. I mixed everything for a minute or so, placing in those toasted ground spices. The way that I love curry leaves, I will not make a curry without curry leaves. I prefer to use fresh when possible, but for today I had some dried curry leaves, so I threw quite a few in. I followed on by throwing in the diced red pepper and just continued mixing everything, letting all those spices release, all those flavors release, and just cook down beautifully. I completely forgot to add my ginger in, so I'm going to quickly grate some in. It's never ever too late to add ginger. I threw a little bit of tamari in, this being a completely optional step. It's just something that I'm just so used to doing. I also threw in some tomato paste as well, just continuing to mix everything. So grabbing that full fat coconut milk, I swirled that into the pan, and I also placed in some ground turmeric along with a little bit of curry powder. So rinsing off my beans, I just gave my butter beans a good rinse. I know not everyone does this step, but I prefer to rinse my beans for sure. So yeah, I just threw those butter beans into the pan. Honestly, I could have just mixed this and ate this as it was, but the recipe is not done. We are not finished yet. So yeah, remove that roasted aubergine from the oven and place it into the pan. If necessary, if you need to, at this point you can add in a little touch of water. You just be the judge. If it needs it, you can do that. So reduce that heat, cover that pan, and just let everything cook down for about, I'd say 20 minutes or so. Give it some time. It is going to be incredible. Whilst that roasted aubergine and butter bean curry was cooking, I decided to chop up a little bit of tofu because I had some on hand and put that to cook in the oven. I also fancied some white basmati rice with this curry. So yeah, grabbed my rice, washed it well, washed it until that water ran clear. So yeah, put my rice to cook, adding in a little bit of butter. No, the butter is not vegan. No, it's not. But of course, if you have a dairy-free alternative and you want to add a little bit of butter in, do your thing. The feeling of removing that lid from a curry I'm about to devour will never ever fail to amaze me. It's like I'm cooking a curry for the first time every time. So once that curry is smelling wonderfully fragrant in your kitchen, you know when it's ready to eat. You can go ahead and chop up some fresh coriander if you enjoy coriander. I like lots of coriander. Throw that coriander into that pan. So I grabbed a bowl and I placed in that rice, that roasted aubergine and butter bean curry, lots of it. And I finished with that tofu. So yeah, I baked the tofu just because butter beans for me personally just would not be enough protein. So yeah, some extra tofu on the side, my gorgeous roasted aubergine and butter bean curry, and some basmati. You know me and my added extras. I've also got some beetroot that I just remembered, and I fancy a little bit of beetroot with my curry. It's ready now. We're gonna make a peanut and tahini tofu noodle salad. This one holds well, so it's perfect for lunch prep. We'll be using vegetables like red cabbage. I've got some carrots, pepper, some mangetout also, which you know is my favorite. I've got some spelt noodles, lots of fresh lime and coriander. I'm gonna make this tofu delicious. Let's put this one together. So for this peanut, tahini and chili sauce, we are going to combine some peanut butter along with some tahini. I do love a light tahini, like a runny tahini. It's just my favorite, along with some tamari or some soy sauce, whatever you have on hand, any chili sauce of choice, one that you enjoy, a little touch of toasted sesame oil, a good squeeze of lime juice, lots of finely grated fresh ginger. If you want, of course, you can add some finely grated garlic. I just wanted to stick with ginger for today. I also threw in some maple syrup, some rice mirin, and a touch of water, just so everything would mix well. Best to add just a touch of water to begin with and just gradually add in the water until you reach your desired consistency. You can go ahead, give it a taste, see if it needs anything extra added, and yeah, just set that sauce aside. So chopping up all of our vegetables. For this recipe, yes, I'm keeping everything raw. If that doesn't suit you, if you know that raw vegetables are not your thing, of course you can cook these vegetables. I would say just quickly steam them, just so they kind of have a little bit of crunch still. So yeah, I chopped up some red cabbage. I also ribboned some carrots, finely sliced up some red peppers, and I also finely sliced some mangetout. In my last video, you guys in the States said that they are called snap peas over there, so just so you are not confused, I believe that they're called snap peas. I continued on by chopping up the spring onions. So moving on to prepare my tofu, I just tried to squeeze out as much water as possible. This is a medium tofu, by the way, if anyone is wondering. Of course, you can use medium, firm, soft, whatever you want to use. So yeah, I diced my tofu into cubes, placing it into a large bowl. I seasoned it with some salt, some garlic powder, and some pepper, just shaking everything in the bowl. Then placed in some corn flour. I love crispy tofu at the moment. I don't know what it is. Honestly, I could just eat crispy tofu all day, every day. It's delicious. So heating a pan with some oil, you can use any oil of choice, placed in that coated tofu and just cooked everything for a few minutes, moving that tofu around, flipping it over, making sure each side, each edge was crispy and golden. So I put my noodles to cook. I'm using these spelt noodles. You can use some rice noodles. You can use whatever noodles you want to use. Finally chopped up some fresh coriander because you know lots of that is going into this. So into a large bowl, I placed in my cooked noodles. So the carrots, red cabbage, peppers, mangetout, spring onions, chopped fresh coriander, placed over some sesame seeds. These were actually toasted sesame seeds. Poured over all of that peanut tahini chili sauce. How could I forget to place in the tofu? So I placed the tofu in and served this peanut tahini tofu and noodle salad up. So delicious. All of these dishes are so different, but I actually think this one for me, I just couldn't stop. I couldn't stop eating it. It was really, really good. I ate half of the tofu already, so there's only a bit of tofu in here. I didn't have much to begin with, but it's so delicious. Let me know which recipe you'll be trying out first in the comments. Would you like to see more vegan recipes? Let me know that also in the comments. I will see you all soon, very, very soon in my next video. Everybody take care. See you. Bye.